I met with a group of Muslims who for the first time in my whole life were actually able to communicate with me in a way that I understood. And they were radical, they were changing the world, they looked amazing, they dressed amazing, you know, and they were charismatic, they were persuasive, they were loving, they were caring. They just understood me better than anyone else. I found a family that I never ever had before.
Alyas Karmani left his radical family behind many years ago. But the rise of so-called Islamic State shows how many young people are still drawn to extremism. This slick propaganda has caused young British Muslims to question their life here in the UK.
Les pays arabes en Amérique. Êtes-vous satisfait de cette vie?
One of these followers was 17-year-old Talha Islam from Dewsbury. This is the last picture taken of Talha before he carried out his suicide bombing mission. Arif Isufo was at school with him.
He's a young mind, right? He's fresh. He's came out of school, right? And these are the people that are being targeted.
Rahima Bucks was a close friend of volunteer Alan Henning.
We travelled on a convoy to Syria together. I constantly think of him. He always had a very infectious laugh. These sacrifices, he would say, people like Alan Henning have made, for what?
Because of our Parliament's decision to attack the Islamic State, I, as a member of the British public, will now pay the price for that decision.
My name is Kausar Thai. As a Muslim, I thought to myself, this is such a beautiful religion, and sometimes I need to portray this to others who are not in the know. In fact, our faith talks about propagation of Islam, not enforcing Islam on anybody, but making people aware about Islam. Islam was not spread by the sword, as some people lead us to believe. We've kept Islam too much to our chest.
Kausar Thai has lived all his life in Dewsbury. 2 years ago, he decided to adopt 2 children from a different ethnicity.
We should open up our masjids, the doors of our masjids, invite people to come in, let them learn about Islam. And this is something that we have not been doing. It's only recently that some masjids have now been opening up and using exhibition days and holding away days and mosque open days. But we should have done that much earlier. We should have developed a rapport with the non-Muslim community. And I think, this is where I think personally, we've been lacking.
Alyas knows what it is like to be at the hands of radicalizers. He is determined to stop young people from making the same mistakes. He says the responsibility often lies with the parents.
Our parents had a traditionalist view of Islam that caused a lot of injustice to young people, denying us who we could get married to, forcing us into jobs that we don't want to do, unreasonable expectations, materialistic, looking at us as objects, not having... That was our biggest concern, as far as I can say. That was my biggest concern, not about foreign policy.
Expert in radicalization, Professor Paul Thomas agrees the motives are complex but individually unique.
No doubt that quite a lot of Muslim young people feel quite strongly about British foreign policy in the past, such as the involvement in Iraq or Afghanistan. But precisely because so many of them felt strongly about it, that doesn't help us predict why some individuals will go towards violence, because much larger numbers feel very strongly but don't even dream of breaking the law.
The root cause is our societal failure to actually engage and inspire young people.
Many of my talks that I go to and I deliver my training, people ask me about why Muslims have done this, and I have to answer the criminal activity of Muslims. You must differentiate between what Islam is and what Muslims do. Either it's through their culture or tradition or criminality. But then there's a very powerful verse in the Quran which says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created everyone from different tribes and nations so that they can get to know one another. It's about respecting and valuing other people's faiths as well. We want to save lives. If you kill one person, it is said in Islam, it is as if you have killed the whole of humanity. And yet the verse goes on and says, and if you save a person's life, it is as if you have saved the life of the whole of humanity.